Maya was living what everyone thought was a dream life. She had a good job at a big company in the city, a nice apartment with modern furniture, and a boyfriend named Daniel who seemed perfect on the surface. They had been together for 3 years, and people always commented on what a lovely couple they made. But if anyone looked closely enough, they would notice something strange. Maya rarely smiled anymore. She had stopped meeting her friends. Her phone was always in her hand, but she seemed nervous every time it buzzed. It hadn't always been like this. When Maya first met Daniel, everything felt exciting and new. He was attentive, always wanting to spend time with her, always calling to check how her day was going. At first, she thought it was sweet, but slowly, things started to change. He began suggesting she shouldn't go out with her friends so often because they were a bad influence. He told her that her family didn't understand their relationship and created distance between them. Whenever Maya made plans without him, Daniel would suddenly fall sick or create some emergency that needed her attention immediately. The worst part was how he made everything seem like it was for her own good. When he asked for access to her bank account, he said it was to help her save money better. When he wanted to know her phone password, he said couples should have no secrets. When he showed up unannounced at her workplace, he claimed he just missed her too much. Maya found herself explaining her every move, accounting for every minute she spent away from him, and slowly losing pieces of herself in the process. She stopped wearing clothes he didn't approve of. She stopped talking about her achievements at work because he would get quiet and distant. She learned to read his moods and adjust her behavior accordingly, walking on eggshells in her own life. Her friends started calling less because she always canceled plans. Her sister stopped inviting her to family gatherings because Daniel always found a reason why they couldn't go. Maya became smaller and quieter, living in a bubble where only Daniel's opinions and feelings seemed to matter. Then one day, something unexpected happened. Her old college friend Rita sent her a message. Rita was getting married and wanted Maya to be part of her wedding celebration. The message sat on Maya's phone for hours while she debated what to do. Part of her wanted to ignore it, to avoid the conflict she knew would come. But another part of her, a part she thought had disappeared completely, felt a small spark of hope. This was a chance to see her old friends, to remember who she used to be before her life became so controlled and limited. When Maya told Daniel about the wedding invitation, she watched his face carefully. His expression changed in seconds, going from surprise to concern to something that looked almost like fear. He sat down next to her and took her hand gently, speaking in that soft voice he used when he wanted to manipulate her into agreeing with him. He reminded her how stressed she had been lately, how she needed rest, not more social obligations. He said her friends probably didn't even really miss her. They just wanted someone to fill a spot in the wedding party. But something was different this time. As Daniel spoke, Maya found herself observing him rather than automatically believing him. She noticed the pattern in his words, the careful way he phrased everything to make her doubt herself. She saw how he was trying to cut off this connection before it could remind her of her old life. For the first time in months, Maya realized what was actually happening. She was being controlled, manipulated, kept away from everyone who truly cared about her. Maya told Daniel she would think about it, but in her heart, she had already decided. She was going to that wedding. She didn't know it yet, but this one decision would be the first crack in the walls of her prison. It would be the beginning of her journey back to herself, back to freedom, back to the life she deserved to live. The control Daniel had over her was about to start breaking. One small step at a time. The weekend of the wedding arrived, and Maya had to lie to get there. She told Daniel it was a work conference she couldn't miss, creating fake emails and documents to make it believable. She felt guilty about lying. But she also knew there was no other way. If she told him the truth, he would find some way to stop her from going. The morning she left, Daniel was unusually quiet. watching her pack with suspicious eyes. Maya kept her hands steady, even though her heart was racing. The moment she arrived at the wedding venue, something inside her shifted. Rita ran up to hug her, and Maya realized she couldn't remember the last time someone had touched her with such genuine affection. Her other college friends were there too, people she hadn't seen in almost 2 years. They welcomed her back into their circle as if no time had passed at all. Maya felt like she could finally breathe properly after holding her breath for years. But her friends noticed things about her that Maya had stopped seeing herself. She was thinner than before, and there were dark circles under her eyes that makeup couldn't quite hide. She jumped every time her phone rang and kept checking it compulsively throughout the evening. When someone suggested taking a group photo, Maya instinctively checked the time, calculating whether Daniel would approve of her being in pictures with other people. Her friend Priya gently asked if she was okay, and Maya felt tears spring to her eyes unexpectedly. That night, sitting in the hotel room she was sharing with Rita, Maya finally opened up. The words came slowly at first, then faster, as years of silence broke open. She talked about how Daniel had slowly taken over every aspect of her life, how he made her feel guilty for wanting to see her family, how he checked her phone and questioned every conversation, how she had to ask permission for things that should have been her own decisions. Rita listened without judgment, holding Maya's hand as she cried. Rita asked Maya a simple question that changed everything. She asked if Maya was happy. The question hung in the air for a long moment before Maya answered honestly for the first time in years. No, she wasn't happy. She was tired, scared, and felt like she was disappearing. Rita suggested Maya talk to someone who could help, someone who understood these situations better than they did. She gave Maya the number of a counselor who specialized in helping people in difficult relationships. When Maya returned home, she expected Daniel to be angry about her absence. But instead, he was overly sweet and loving. He had bought her favorite flowers and cooked dinner. He apologized for being difficult lately and promised to be better. For a moment, Maya almost believed things would improve. But then she noticed he had gone through her suitcase while she was in the shower. He casually mentioned seeing pictures on her phone from the weekend, asking detailed questions about who everyone was and what they had talked about. That night, after Daniel fell asleep, Maya lay awake, staring at the ceiling. She pulled out her phone and started searching online, typing in phrases she had never used before. The articles she found described her life with startling accuracy. Terms like emotional manipulation, isolation tactics, and controlling behavior filled her screen. She read stories from other people that sounded exactly like her own. She wasn't going crazy. She wasn't too sensitive or difficult like Daniel always said. She was in a relationship that was hurting her, trapping her, making her into someone she didn't recognize anymore. Maya created a hidden note on her phone and started writing down everything she could remember. All the times Daniel had made her feel small. All the ways he had separated her from people who cared about her. All the moments she had ignored her own feelings because he convinced her she was wrong. Seeing it all written down made it impossible to deny anymore. This wasn't love. This wasn't normal. This wasn't what she deserved. The control he had over her life was starting to crack because she could finally see it clearly. And once you see the cage you're living in, you can start planning your escape. Maya knew she couldn't just pack her bags and leave. Daniel controlled too many aspects of her life. Their bank account was joint, and he monitored every transaction. The apartment lease was only in his name. She had nowhere to go, and very little money of her own. If she tried to leave without a plan, he would find a way to pull her back or make her life impossible. She needed to be smart about this, careful and strategic. Her freedom depended on planning every detail perfectly. She called the number Rita had given her and spoke with a counselor named Mrs. Ahmed. The conversation was difficult because Maya had to admit out loud what she had been denying for so long. But Mrs. Ahmed didn't judge her or make her feel foolish. She had helped many people in similar situations and knew exactly what Maya was going through. She explained that what Maya was experiencing was a pattern of control that often got worse over time, not better. She helped Maya understand that leaving would be a process, not a single moment. Following Mrs. Ahmed's advice, Maya started taking small steps toward independence. She opened a new bank account at a different branch, using her workplace address for the statements. Every week, she transferred tiny amounts of money that Daniel wouldn't notice missing. 20 here, 30 there, building up an emergency fund slowly and carefully. She made copies of important documents like her passport, birth certificate, and educational certificates, storing them in a locker at her office that Daniel didn't know about. The hardest part was reconnecting with her family while pretending everything was normal with Daniel. Maya started meeting her younger sister Zara for lunch once a week, telling Daniel it was a work commitment he couldn't verify. At first, the conversations were awkward because so much time had passed. Zara was hurt that Maya had disappeared from her life, and Maya didn't know how to explain without revealing everything. But slowly, honestly, Maya started opening up about her situation. Zara was angry at first, then devastated, then determined to help in any way she could. Meanwhile, Daniel seemed to sense something changing in Maya, even though she tried to act normal. He became more attentive, but also more controlling. He started coming to her office without warning, claiming he was just in the neighborhood. He called her multiple times during work hours, and if she didn't answer immediately, he would keep calling until she did. He went through her purse when he thought she wasn't looking. He questioned her about conversations she had with coworkers. The pressure was building, and Maya felt like she was acting in a play every single day, pretending to be someone she wasn't. One evening, Daniel found a receipt in Maya's bag from a coffee shop she had visited with Zara. He demanded to know who she was with and why she hadn't told him about it. Maya tried to stay calm and explain it was just her sister, but Daniel wouldn't let it go. He raised his voice, saying she was sneaking around behind his back, that she was probably lying about other things too. He went through her phone right in front of her, reading her messages and checking her call history. Maya felt her face burn with anger and humiliation, but she forced herself to stay quiet and let him finish. Fighting back would only make things worse. After he finally calmed down and apologized like he always did, Maya went into the bathroom and locked the door. She sat on the edge of the bathtub and took deep breaths, reminding herself why she needed to stay strong. She looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the person staring back. But underneath the fear and exhaustion, she saw something else too. Determination. Strength. A woman who had survived this long and would survive long enough to get out. Mrs. Ahmed had told her that the most dangerous time in a controlling relationship is when the person tries to leave. Maya needed to be prepared for Daniel's reaction. Needed to have support in place. Needed to protect herself legally and physically. She was building her escape route, piece by piece. Day by day. Every small act of independence was like removing one brick from the wall that trapped her. Daniel's control over her life was breaking down slowly, but surely. He just didn't know it yet. And by the time he realized Maya was slipping away, it would be too late to stop her. Everything changed on a Tuesday evening in late autumn. Maya came home from work, tired, and looking forward to a quiet night. But Daniel was waiting for her with questions about a male coworker whose name had appeared in her work emails. The conversation escalated quickly, with Daniel accusing her of things that weren't true, twisting her words, and refusing to listen to reason. Maya felt herself getting defensive, trying to explain, trying to make him understand. But nothing she said was good enough. Then Daniel did something he had never done before. In the middle of the argument, he grabbed Maya's arm tightly, his fingers digging into her skin with enough force to hurt. Maya froze, shocked by this new line being crossed. Daniel immediately realized what he had done and let go, his expression changing to horror and regret. He started apologizing frantically, saying he didn't know what came over him, promising it would never happen again. He cried and begged her to forgive him, saying he was just so stressed and scared of losing her. Maya said it was okay, even though her arm throbbed with pain. She said she understood, even though fear was flooding through her entire body. She let Daniel hold her and comfort her, even though she wanted to run far away. But inside her mind, something clicked into place with absolute clarity. This was the moment. If she didn't leave now, this would happen again. And next time, it might be worse. Much worse. The physical line had been crossed, and there was no going back from that. That night, Maya waited until Daniel was deeply asleep. She went into the bathroom with her phone and took photos of the bruises forming on her arm. Her hands shook as she documented the evidence, but she made herself do it. Then she sent a message to Zara and Mrs. Ahmed, letting them know it was time to put their plan into action. She barely slept that night, lying next to Daniel while planning her escape, counting down the hours until morning. The next day, Maya went to work like everything was normal. She smiled at Daniel when he kissed her goodbye. She texted him during the day, like she always did. But when it was time to go home, Maya didn't get on the train that would take her back to the apartment. Instead, she met Zara at a coffee shop 3 blocks from her office. Together, they drove to Zara's apartment, where Maya would be staying. It was a small 1-bedroom place, and Maya would have to sleep on the couch. But it was safe. It was away from Daniel. It was freedom. When Daniel realized Maya wasn't coming home, his phone calls started. First, they were confused and worried. Then, they became angry and demanding. Then, they turned desperate and apologetic. Maya's phone wouldn't stop buzzing with messages. He said he was sorry. He said he loved her. He said she was overreacting. He said she would regret this. He said she would never find anyone who cared about her like he did. The messages came in waves, hundreds of them, shifting between different emotions and tactics, trying to find the one that would make her come back. The next morning, Maya went to the courthouse with Mrs. Ahmed and filed for a protection order. Sitting in the waiting room, Maya felt like she might be sick. But when her name was called and she walked into the courtroom, something inside her straightened and strengthened. She spoke clearly about what had happened, showing the photos of the bruises, explaining the pattern of control and isolation that had built up over 3 years. The judge listened carefully and granted a temporary order, which meant Daniel legally had to stay away from her. But Daniel didn't respect the order. He showed up at Maya's workplace the very next day, trying to talk to her in the lobby. Security had to escort him out, while Maya watched from the 4th-floor window, shaking. He sent emails to her boss, claiming Maya was having some kind of breakdown and needed help. He contacted her friends and family members, telling them his version of the story where he was the victim and Maya was being cruel and unreasonable. He created fake social media accounts to try to message her when she blocked his real ones. Through it all, Maya had her support system. Zara let her cry and rage and process everything she was feeling. Mrs. Ahmed helped her understand that this escalation was normal, that controlling people often got worse when they lost their control. Her workplace security knew to watch for Daniel. Her lawyer was preparing for the permanent protection order hearing. Maya wasn't alone anymore, and that made all the difference. The control Daniel had over her was completely broken now. He was fighting desperately to get it back, but he couldn't reach her anymore. She had taken that power away from him, one brave step at a time. 6 months passed, and Maya's life looked completely different. She was living in a tiny studio apartment on the other side of the city. It wasn't fancy, like the place she had shared with Daniel. The furniture was second-hand, the walls needed paint, and the heater made strange noises at night. But every single item in that space belonged to her. Every decision about how to arrange things, what to eat, when to sleep, was hers alone. For the first time in years, Maya felt like she could breathe deeply without permission. The healing process wasn't easy or straightforward. Some days Maya felt strong and proud of how far she had come. Other days, she would wake up with nightmares, dreaming that Daniel had found her or that she had never left at all. She started seeing a therapist twice a week, working through the ways the relationship had changed how she thought about herself. She learned that recovering from this kind of experience took time, patience, and a lot of self-compassion. There were setbacks and hard days, but slowly, gradually, Maya was becoming herself again. Her relationships with friends and family were healing too, though some connections couldn't be repaired. A few friends who had tried to warn her about Daniel early on were too hurt by how Maya had pushed them away. She understood and didn't push them to forgive her. But Rita, Zara, Priya, and several others stood by her side through everything. They celebrated small victories with her, like the day the permanent protection order was granted, or the day Maya went a whole week without checking over her shoulder constantly. They reminded her who she had been before Daniel, and helped her discover who she was becoming after him. Maya found a new job at a smaller company where nobody knew about her past. Starting fresh felt good, even though it meant taking a pay cut and losing some seniority. Her new coworkers didn't know about Daniel or the protection order or any of it. They just knew Maya as someone friendly and hardworking who sometimes seemed a bit jumpy but was getting more confident every day. She made friends slowly and carefully, learning to trust again without letting fear control her choices. One of the most meaningful things Maya did was start volunteering at a local women's center. Once a month, she would share her story with a group of women who were going through similar situations. She told them about the signs she had missed, the red flags she had ignored, the ways she had been slowly isolated and controlled. She talked honestly about how hard it was to leave, and how messy the aftermath had been. But she also told them about the other side, about freedom and healing and rediscovering joy. When Maya shared her story, she could see herself reflected in the eyes of the women listening. She saw their shame, their confusion, their fear that maybe they were the problem. Maybe they were too sensitive. Maybe it wasn't really that bad. And she told them what she wished someone had told her sooner. That leaving wasn't one big dramatic moment, but a series of small, brave decisions, that they deserved better. That the control could be broken, one step at a time, until they were free. Daniel still tried to contact her occasionally. He would create new email addresses or social media profiles to get around her blocks. His messages were always the same pattern, cycling between apologies, anger, and attempts to make her feel guilty. But Maya had learned not to engage. She would screenshot the messages for her lawyer, block the new account, and move on with her day. His words didn't have power over her anymore because she had built a life he couldn't touch. The story ends on a warm spring evening at Rita's first anniversary celebration. Maya was standing in Rita's backyard, surrounded by fairy lights and laughter and people who genuinely cared about her. She was wearing a yellow dress she had chosen herself, dancing to music she actually enjoyed, eating food without worrying about someone's approval. At one point, she caught her reflection in the patio door and stopped for a moment. The woman looking back at her had light in her eyes again. She looked happy. She looked free. Maya thought about the person she had been a year ago, trapped and scared, and losing herself a little more each day. She barely recognized that version of herself now. The journey from there to here hadn't been easy. Healing wasn't a straight line, and she still had hard days. But she had taken that first step toward freedom, and then another, and another. With each step, Daniel's control over her life had broken down a little more. And now, standing in her friend's backyard, on a beautiful evening, Maya was completely, wonderfully free. She had reclaimed her life, her voice, her choices, her future. And nothing and no one would ever take that away from her again.